Hello everybody and welcome back to another RCT2 review. Today we are looking at Magic Towers Resort by Oli414. If you are visiting from Oli's channel after his video, then welcome in, and hope you enjoy this review, and feel free to check out all the other ones and tutorials and streams and all sorts of other stuff we've got going on here. Oli was kind enough to send me this map to review, so we're going to jump on in and take a look. Now this is part of an overall resort, so the whole project isn't done quite yet. I know there's some other things in the pipeline coming through, but so far we've got the Magic Towers Resort here, the theme park, and one of the hotels over here. So if we come in here, kind of following our highway, get off and pull over here into our little drop-off area, go to the front plaza over here. All right. So this is a no custom scenery project, so this is all NCSO rather than the typical custom scenery stuff that I review. But as we get started, let's jump into our front entrance plaza here, which is really pleasant. It's got a little variety of buildings, some elevation changes and everything. Kind of small, sort of understated, but I think that's good. You can see too a little bit of the focus on the backstage areas. So you've got this whole show building kind of on either side. So all these little facades are just one giant building, as you might expect from a Disney or other type of major park like that. And kind of these fake facade walls and everything. Oli is a part of the industry. He's worked in a number of, or for a number of different folks, and he's really familiar with this kind of stuff. So I think it's definitely cool to look at it from that perspective as you come through here. So lots of little shops and stalls and things as we come out, and the big reveal is here after we kind of pass through all this area and we get to the towers. So this is part of the logo of the park and the namesake itself. This is the Magic Towers, I suppose, and there's two attractions in here. So there's Towers Mild and Towers Wild, which I think are clever. The smaller one, a little bit maybe backwards to what you might think. That's the Wild one. That's a drop tower. And then the other one over here, Towers Mild, is an observation tower, which is a little bit of a, I guess, hold you in suspense until you get to the top and you can actually spin around and see what there is to see. But neat structure, and you have the show building underneath that's hidden on all sides by a berm and some plants. Kind of an interesting design as far as that goes. These are awfully large towers, maybe a little bit big, but definitely commands attention from all sides of the park. I like this sort of two-level entry kind of promenade here, as well as the stair steps down into it, so you kind of get three levels looking across. You can see the fountain infrastructure in here, so assuming there's some kind of a show element on all of these different pieces. First ride we get to over here is our carousel, so the standard kind of merry-go-round. And then as we continue on, we get to our first of the themed areas. This is an Arabian type area. Kind of come through, and we have a lot of this we would call rock work, I suppose, throughout. And the main ride in the area is our big Intamin coaster here. So this is Flight of the Anga. We can see running a lot of different trains on here. We're running 4 trains in total. This is a launch coaster. The actual station and maintenance area and everything are hidden pretty well from view inside the park to the guests, and then the show buildings here back up to our parking lot area. It's a nice twisty layout, maybe not necessarily focused on heavy coaster realism, but at the same time it's sort of a nice flowy layout. Using proper block brakes and everything like that, so we have this guy waiting here for our launch until this one goes through his block brakes there. So there we go. Forward to the next. Nice layout throughout. Nice viewing from as you come into the space, and then here a little taste of the area shooting out and over top of the pathway. Have our maintenance areas in here. I kind of like this big horizontal door that would scroll up, and then the whole transfer track goes horizontal across. Not quite enough of the maintenance positions. You want at least one less than the total number of trains. We probably need a third one here, but nonetheless, not too bad. And if we continue on around to get to some of these other themed spaces. The magic carpet ride, which you might expect in an area like this. I love this themed element here with these curved staircases going down. I think that's very nice. We have some gardens area here, the various palm trees and the nice pink flowers and everything. A couple of facades here that are actually office type buildings in the back, which is kind of a nice little touch. A little bazaar here with some market stalls and things like that. You can definitely kind of feel that atmosphere as you go through it. And then we cross the bridge over here to our next area. So if you are on the main loop here, you can actually come into this from the main loop also, but each of the sides has a similar entry type detail. We've got this tree trunk coaster track sort of thing coming on through here with the plants and vines and things hanging off of it. So really starts to describe this lush area a little bit. We have a bunch of these different towers, these sort of like treehouse type towers. A pretty neat idea coming through here. I have a little tiny ride here, Tree Hopper. It's a little almost kids ride of sorts. And then the main ride in the area is this pretty big dark ride here, pretty substantial. So this is Fantaji Shinran. Sure I'm pronouncing wrong. What I kind of like about this one is that it starts in its own building here, then kind of pops out, goes up over the pathway here, and ends up in our second show building back here in the back of house. 2 levels throughout, but all themed. So we have our nice cutaway view here. Have this sort of fantasy-esque feeling behind it. So coming into the first room here, you got this big pumpkins and all sorts of hidden stuff as it drops down and into our maybe not necessarily the most welcoming jungle here with some of these spiders and other creatures. And then it pops out on the other side looking maybe a little bit cheerful, more cheerful anyway, with some colorful flowers and butterflies and all that sort of a thing. Then it pops out on the other end here, back underneath of the pathway, and then back home to the station itself. So pretty nicely done, and I like the cutaway views also, just to be able to see that there's interior theming done. I think that's one of the best things you can do if you do a dark ride, is having scenery, and whether it's for cutaway view or not, or whether you kind of cut it away yourself, it's just nice to see some thought put into the interiors of the spaces, just because it makes you think a little more about how those rides can come together. So definitely done well in that regard. And I do like the theming kind of overall in the space, these little, or the little but treehouse elements. This one looks like you can walk up into it. Some restaurant elements up in here, so you have like a beef noodle stall and some other things for those areas. You kind of assume you can walk up into some of these other ones and explore a little bit. Sort of feels adventurous of sorts. So that's that area, anchored by its one major attraction, and that sort of dictates a similar theme to a lot of these, is that you've got a big anchor attraction to all these and then some supporting areas. So if we come on through, cross our bridge, again we can come through the main loop or on the back side here. We get to this kind of village-esque themed area. Sort of, I don't necessarily want to say medievalist, because it's not quite there, but nice little town creation here with a couple of islands of buildings and then the facades all around. So nicely encapsulates the area and kind of makes it feel a little bit a part of a whole here. So there's 2 different rides, and the first one is less of an active ride, more of just a themed building to kind of convey a ride. Unfortunately, we don't really have this in the game, but this is a flying theater. You can see there's 4 separate theater pieces here, and using the gravestones here as the seats, which is a pretty clever idea. And folks are queuing up down underneath, which is cool. So you definitely have the idea there. So it's a pretty cool ride and kind of a staple in a lot of themed attractions, is to have some kind of a flying theater in there. Now on the other side, we have a working one, and I like this one a lot, because this is called the Temple of Choice. So what are the choices? Well, it's a forwards and backwards dark ride that has a couple of different paths that can be taken, so you can kind of see all the little cat cars that are moving around here. And let's follow this guy around. Here he is, and he's just backing up a little bit to this next spot. Definitely the Forbidden Temple feel to everything, with the big gears and the columns and all the bats and things like that. So a pretty cool ride path here. We're using shuttle mode, which is really a good way to do this. You can make the ride reverse in a number of different ways. There's just a lot of different stuff to see. And you can see there where it stops in front of the statue there. This guy took a right-hand turn. Now this guy's going to take a left-hand turn. So that's all possible thanks to a plugin that Oli had made for called Advanced Track, and it lets you do track switches. And we'll get to that when we get to the mine train here in a little bit. So out here on the main path, we have Trebuchet, a nice little topspin ride, and some more theming here with this big airship hanging over this pad that kind of sticks out a little bit. This is a nice full wall here that hides the fireworks area. It's a nice enclosure there with all the fireworks getting ready to shoot out. So this is part of that nighttime spectacular. So you have that squared away to the towers themselves. And then in the back here we have this great little docking area for any boats coming through and just general maintenance, things like that. Alright, so we jump across to our Asian section. Have a little bit of change in landscape, change in some path types, and get to the main attraction here, which is Samurai Trail. So this uses the miniature golf course kind of as a walkway, and uses the golf holes to get folks to kind of pause in different areas. But it's sort of like a ropes course, an adventure course of sorts, I suppose. So you can kind of see the using the cable car pieces up here, some barrels hanging above on this curved piece with the wild mouse track above, and then also just a little another little building here with the pagoda sunk into it. So very nicely done for that whole space. Okay, so let's skip on by this area because I want to go to that one last since it's my favorite area. We're gonna go back to the front here and say that we turned left out of the entrance to our little seaside seafaring area. We have this nice boat thematic here in the middle of the water. Again, surrounded on a couple of different sides by buildings, and those are all screening some of the show buildings in the back here. So this one that we're going to take a look at, we have this sort of Cape Cod-esque, I guess, little village of sorts. So this is Atlanta's Journey as we come out, and this is kind of a neat themed element here, the waves as you sort of come on down. So you have the glass acting as waves, and some of these glass elements sort of rushing over everything, and it's we've got this nice coaster layout here in the end. So that little startup is set up for this launch zone right here. It pulls up into the a little bit of a flat pause here, themed room up top. I guess this is the discovery of Atlantis before you dive down into a minimally themed space, but that's okay. This is sort of the theming level that most dark rides have, as the boats cruise their way on around. A little bit of a shame that the standard in-game boats don't have the sprites to do the banked diving corners, but you know, no matter. It's still a nice little element in there. Also running block section, so definitely a positive there. A little bit of a long section here without blocks, so it's going to be a little bit of a slow go for those riders or those queuing folks, and you can see it is a reasonably long queue, but that's the trade-off that you get for unobstructed ride versus capacity. And wrapping around on this side, we have a little bit more. This is the Harbor Fair, according to the sign. So we have a little slide, scrambler, and then in the back here we have the Cirque Theater, which uses the in-game circus element sort of as a theming prop. This is for sort of the marquee. And then going back through here, we have the actual stage and seating area with our light bar across the top, so using some barrels there, and then the actual characters back here, the different entertainers. Alright, so now that we have backtracked, we will jump into this last area. So this is the sort of snowy area of the park. And then we have two major rides here. We have this mine train and we have a rapids ride in the back. So this mine train is very cool. As you can see, it uses a double station. And we have a train sitting in here, and this train is pulling into the other one. Now, if you watch my hacking tutorial series, you can see how to do this if you use two different rides. But thanks to the advanced track that Oli put together in the plugin, it doesn't need two rides. So this is actually one ride running block sections with two separate stations, which is a pretty cool design. I think it's done very well, and the stations are individual, so it loads in each one in sequence, and then each one dispatches in sequence. So this is our kind of snowy cold mine train wrapping around the entire area. You can see a little pre-lift section here up to this first lift hill. The gumdrop theming used to good extent. I know that's a favorite for no custom scenery. Into our first little show building here, we've got a couple of helix elements, and then I'm going to drop out on the other side. Back on those supports. A little bit of an out and back element here before it breaks to go up to the second hill. And this is a pretty sprawling ride, so it doesn't just touch this area in particular, it goes beyond, so it sticks out over into the Asian area a little bit here. I do like these archways on the tower, or on this lift structure. There we go, come on back through there with some trick track. Nice big drop underneath the pathway there. That's a pretty cool photo op location. We wrap around up here and head into another brake run, and this is a pretty cool element here. Diving down and wrapping around some of the scenery inside of the show building for the rapids before coming out the backside and coming into the brakes. Brake run also has the transfer track over here to a sliding track for 5 different locations for maintenance, and you see there are 5 trains, so that's done very well for the whole thing. So I like how this ride is integrated throughout all the different spaces. We have a couple of different areas in here too. Nice buildings. I do like this little scientific research station of sorts with the big globe and the little Martian objects and things from the base game. And this is also a nice little building here. Alrighty, and then as we continue over, we get to our last attraction in the park. So this is Glacier Glide, which is a rapids ride that is largely indoors. So kind of an interesting mix of indoor water attraction and then also a snow theme on a rapids ride, so maybe a little bit chilly perhaps. Using some of the backstage stuff with the water slide here being used as piping and pumps. We have our Ferris wheel here as our kind of props. So you do start by going up the lift hill into these various futuristic type themes in the Arctic. So I'm not quite sure what the full story is. I remember Ali telling me about it one time, but I can't quite remember to tell it accurately, so I'll just leave it off. But it has a nice, reasonably short layout, but not too bad. With the speed that the ride moves in the game, it probably feels about right. And then we have our drop here at the end. I don't know why all those dispatched right at the same time. That's a little bit strange. We might have had a breakdown, perhaps. Using the Virginia reel for the drop, which is kind of an interesting move. Myself, I probably would have used the actual rapids drop, but I can understand this one too for that sort of dry drop into the splash right there. But I can kind of understand either way. And again, all the nice little back areas. You have your holding pond for any boats that aren't used. It's a retention pond also, and have a little davit arm there as well to pull out the boats. The whole thing has our ring service road around it. Definitely done very well in that regard. And then there's all sorts of the fun little back areas. So we have our greenhouse landscaping here, a bunch of greenhouses on the side. water treatment filtration areas back here. And then up here at the front, when we turned and went into the park, we also have this little, almost like a downtown Disney or a city walk area. So pretty cool building here. I like this one with the turrets on there on a couple of different sides. And then we get into all these different food buildings here. So we have our food shack over here, and this is cafe, the different cinema and some of the other elements. I like the little jumping fountains here, and this guy being pretty nonchalant about getting wet. All this parking lot can lead either into this space or continue through into the park. And we do have our monorail, so this is a monorail going off to future developments, and also off to our hotel. This hotel over here gives me some Animal Kingdom Lodge vibes. I'm not sure if that was the inspiration, but I do kind of like that. Done well. So using a couple of different textures here, lots of rooms, nice bunch of gardens throughout the space. I like this curved viewing area here off of the lobby. A couple of different wings here, and then we also have this pretty substantial pool area and water slide on the back side here through the whole thing. And that monorail is set up to go off into future things, as is the highway here. So I think there's going to be plenty more to see in the resort here come a little while longer. So I'm looking forward to doing more reviews of this park as we get more to see. Not quite sure what could be on the horizon, but the park itself is pretty well fleshed out. I would always love to see another big coaster, of course, so maybe there's some future expansion in the cards. This Asian area could maybe do with a big something there, perhaps. But that is all for today's review. Hopefully you enjoyed the look around Magic Towers Resort, and go check out Ollie's channel for some of the time-lapse builds of this if you want to see how this all came together, and then stay tuned for more for kind of next projects from there. So thank you again for Ollie for giving me this park to review, and until next time, thank you guys very much for watching, and have a great day.